Testing. 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 Check one. Testing. Testing.
Did you
Because
see
now it's
that
like a new
email?
law that we have to be available.
Well, it's been that way. I don't know why we haven't done it all year.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. We used to.
We did, yeah. And now it's
'Cause I was
officially, I
here-
think January 1st, you have to be available for
Okay.
people to speak on both ends.
Yeah.
So,
Come here.
so they're like, the
Make sure
APs
that-
get to go every day. I'm like, cool. So you can sit around. I gotta do tons of work though. Like evaluations to write and.
Good fun.
Oh, yeah.
Where's
I
my-
gotta change of clothes. I'm like,
Are we
"Get
on?"
comfortable." I'm like,
They're listening in on our.
yes, they're
conversation.
listening.
Click if you want to switch to a different microphone or speaker. Am I missing some board members?
They're not here yet. They're boycotting now. These have no outlets.
No, the tables don't.
No.
The walls do. Tables don't.
Oh, well, we want some food. I hope this one doesn't go to midnight.
That would be nice. We can eat after break.
But I think as long as after they're done talking, you're probably.
Yeah, that's what. Amy said.
I guess I'm sure with your credential from Vermont, there's some EL authorization that you don't have.
Yeah, that's what it's.
So, I don't know what we're gonna do. Oh, my husband's calling, so good. You can come get shot.
But technically, after the public comment, though, they probably don't have to leave it on anymore, right? Because I can't go.
Hey, babe. Are you going?
Oh, God, that's so mean.
You can come get him for the
Good evening. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Oxford Preparatory Academy, November 21st, 2019. 5:30 p.m. open session, 5:40 p.m. closed session, returning to open session at 7 o'clock p.m. Our meeting location tonight is Oxford Preparatory Academy, Saddleback Valley Campus, 22882 Lumont Drive, Lake Forest, California. And teleconference location is Oxford Preparatory Academy, South Orange County Campus, 23000 Via Santa Maria, Mission Viejo, California. The public, including public attending a teleconference location, are invited to address the board regarding items listed on the agenda. Comments on an agenda item will be accepted during consideration of that item or prior to consideration of the item in the case of a closed session item. Please turn in comment cards to the board secretary prior to the item you wish to address. Start with a call to order and flag salute. Our meeting is called to order at 5:38 p.m. Roll call. Mary Campos is absent. Joseph Haney is present. Raymond Jackson.
Happily present.
And Delight Travis.
Present.
All right. Next up is the flag salute. Please rise, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item D is approval of the agenda for the Opah regular meeting of the Board of Directors for November 21st, 2019. It is recommended that the board approve the agenda for the Opah regular board meeting for November 21st, 2019. It has been brought to my attention a request that we remove item FXF under item scheduled for board action to remove item F. Do I have a motion at this time?
I make a motion
And what is your motion?
to remove item XF from the items scheduled for board action.
And to otherwise approve the agenda?
Yes.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. We now move to closed session. Do we have any comment cards for the closed session items? In closed session, we have one item, existing conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D2, one matter. We now move to closed session at 5:40 p.m. We are so on time tonight.
Oh, nice. Charge my.
Bill 9? What?
So that Ryan applied for a job at Chapman.
Yeah.
Yes.
He said he couldn't reach you.
All right, we return to open session at 7:20 PM. There is nothing to report from closed session. Next up is item 4, consent agenda items. Approve the minutes from the Opah special meeting of the Board of Directors on October 18th, 2019, regular board meeting. Regular meeting of the Board of Directors on October 30th, 2019, the special meeting of the Board of Directors on November 4th, 2019. Approve Opah personnel actions. That's it. It is recommended the board approve consent agenda items A and B. Do I have a motion?
Yes, please. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Up next is 5, public comment. Oral communications, non-agenda items. The public, including public attending a teleconference location, are invited to address the board regarding items not listed on the agenda. No individual presentation shall be for more than 3 minutes, and the total time for this purpose shall not exceed 15 minutes. Ordinarily, board members will not respond to presentations and no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a presentation. Please turn your comment card into the board secretary prior to this agenda item. Do we have any comment cards? All right, item 6, staff reports. Staff reports are limited to 10 minutes. First up is Opah Saddleback Valley, Mr. Bridges, Chancellor, and ASB students.
And he's already 2 minutes and,
That's
Good job.
ours.
oh, you got busy. You've been working on this.
One moment, let me share.
Are we going to have like a lap time? Look at him, look at him.
Mhm.
I love it.
He's got tennis shoes on, so he can make them move fast. There are the dress. Yep. They got, okay, the white sole. That's what threw me off.
All right, you're up.
But fancy footwork nonetheless.
I am ready.
Oh, we got serious.
Good evening, everyone. So the Saddleback Valley update will be given by our ASB president and vice president. Before I bring them up, I do want to give an update on our locker room situation. Mr. Robbie has secured all the lockers to the wall, which is a good thing. So it looks like the locker room will be ready the week after Thanksgiving break. So I know it's exciting. I believe the kids this week got their locks, practiced their locks, so they should be good to go after the break. So now I would like to bring up Mr. President and Madam Vice President up to the podium to give our site update, and they will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm the ASB President, Joaquin Garcia. Hi, I'm Maddie Wong, the Vice President of ASB. Okay, so we'll be presenting Litter Today. Litter Today, we do projects and we dress up as our book character. Many projects include for 6th grade, you could do an iPhone, and 7th grade, you have many decisions based on your MI.
So at the Opah layover this year, 2 families won the layover. They got to ride in a limo, eat In-N-Out for dinner, and play games. They also got to have lots of fun mischief with the staff.
The NET assembly, TK through 5th graders attended this assembly. It was a kindness/pay it forward assembly. NED stands for never give up. Encourage others and do your best.
So instead of doing a jogathon this year, we did a rainbow run. As students ran around the field, colored chalk was thrown at them, and everyone had a great time getting colored in the chalk. Honor Society raised $40,000, and because of this, the students got prizes. Some of these prizes included a Kona ice truck, a pancake and pajama day tomorrow, and an upcoming movie night.
The PBIS raffle. At first recess and middle school break on Thursday, students can place scholarships into the raffle. On Friday, 10 winners are announced and they get to spin the prize wheel. Some prizes include homework passes and a guest spot on Opah TV and a candy.
Can I play the video? How long is it?
Definitely.
So on Friday this week, we played a fun soccer game. The soccer game was against the Vista Charter School, another local charter school. Everyone had a great time, and the score was 4-2, where the Vista Charter School won.
Today was the last day of major. Students enjoyed learning about food, sports, and many other activities, including acting, art, and many more.
So some upcoming events at Opah SV are Thanksgiving break from November 25th through the 29th. Report cards go home on December 6th, and Polar Express Day is on December 13th. Winter break is December 16th through January 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I still have 5 minutes and 39 seconds to fill. We have to go the entire 10, right? No.
No.
Okay. Oh, I just I wanted to. Mrs. Merlette is the brainchild behind the scholarship ferry. So since our last board meeting, both PBIS teams attended their second meeting at the Orange County Department of Education, and some of the other schools shared the scholarship ferry is what we called it, but the scholarship ferry. And so what the other school actually had, the custodian would dress up, and then you put roller skates on and roller skate around the campus and collect the raffle for the week. So it's super popular. Kudos to Mrs. Merlette for finding the skirt and making the headband and finding the music and making sure all the kids had fun. So I just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to Mrs. Merlette for doing that, because it could have been me. So thank you. And that is our board presentation. So now I would like to thank our president and vice president for coming tonight, the parents for bringing them. Thank you very much. And I believe Miss Alvarado is next, but I'll wait until she comes up.
All right. That does take us to the Opah South Orange County campus. Ms. Alvarado, Chancellor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Lots of things have happened since the last board meeting on our campus, but there's not enough time in 10 minutes to share with you guys all the great things. So there's a few highlights here that I want to share with you. Just like at SV, we had our NET assembly. It was on November 13th, and this assembly was for K through 5th grade students. And NED, as they shared, it stands for Never Give Up, Encouraging Others, and Do Your Best. And it's actually on growth mindset was the focus of this assembly for our students. This is something that our counselor, Ms. G, brought to our campuses, both of our campuses. So she's the mastermind behind this exciting assembly for the students. They were very excited. It was great to see all the smiles and how excited they got about this NED, which was just a cardboard that was standing on the stage. And this gentleman, there was no technology used except for a yo-yo, the speaker, and a cardboard person. And he was very entertaining. The kids were engaged the entire time, and they learned about how to feel good about what they do. And if they don't succeed the first time, they can keep trying, and they will succeed just by trying and trying their best. So it was a great opportunity for students to learn about growth mindset. And after that, there was a yo-yo sale where students had the opportunity to purchase yo-yos. We didn't realize how excited they would be about yo-yos, but it was great to see so many kids purchasing them. I believe we've sold about 400 of them. And and the sale goes back to the company. So we did not pay for the speaker. It's a pay it forward type of organization, so that whatever money that was collected from the yo-yos is what was used to pay for the next assembly for another school. So that's how this organization works. So on to the next great thing that is going on, or that just happened. Our students, sixth grade students, went to the Astro Camp, and this happened on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They left early on Monday, came back on Wednesday, tired and excited as well. And some of the highlights or the things that they did during camp was atmosphere and gases is one of the items that they explored: electricity and magnetism, lights, lasers. Planetary science. Also, they did some simulation classes, such as microgravity and also building and launching rockets. They were hiking. They were doing so many different activities. I'm sure that those parents who who have a sixth grader, got an earful of all the great things that our students got to do. And it was a great learning opportunity for our students to be away from home, but also become independent. And I'm sure parents notice a difference there with our students. The next item that I'm very excited to share with you guys is that Oxford Prep Academy, both SOC and SV, will be participating on an hour of code school-wide. So we have two wonderful parents who work at Amazon at SOC who introduced this idea, shared it with two of our teachers, and one of our parents asked if we could add a few more teachers to the hour of code, and I said absolutely not. We are getting the entire school to do it because this is a great opportunity for our students to learn something about engineering. So what the Hour of Code is, it's a global movement of millions of students throughout the world learning about computer science. And the purpose of this hour is to inspire students to learn more about what coding is, breaking the stereotypes, and also leaving students leaving them with a feeling of empowerment that this can be done by any student, any age, and no matter where you come from, who you are, your gender. This is something that anyone can do. And so the purpose of this for us is to plant the seed for our students, K through 8th. And if they love this, wonderful. This may turn into a career for them in the future. And if they don't, at least they have had exposure to coding. Next slide, please. So how is Opah making a difference? We're having almost 800 students participate in this event, 30 teachers and 30 plus volunteers that are going to be helping us with this project on December 12th. And this information here that there's over 500,000 jobs in this field, but only 43,000 students graduated with a college degree to fulfill those jobs. So there's lots of need there that I think we can do a little bit on our part at Oxford Prep Academy to help increase and support the need there. Next slide. If you can play this video, this is just a quick little short video, 3 minutes, about what this day is.
You're gonna press run. This is so cool.
Hour of Code.
The hour of code. Yeah, programming. Man چهل دو خط کد نیست.
Your teacher says you guys are into it.
We are. It's very awesome.
Around the world had an hour of code today. It's part of a global movement to show kids what it takes to create the programs and apps they spend so much time using. The largest education events in history.
Organizers set what they called an ambitious goal, reaching 10 million students this week. Almost 15 million signed up.
This week, I'm proud to join the students, teachers, businesses, and nonprofit organizations taking new steps to support computer science in America's schools.
You guys are already getting a head start on taking over the world. I got it. They've been so excited about it.
They don't even have to be a computer science engineer. Maybe they want to do something else. But in our world, this is going to be the basis for everything that we do.
Look what I did.
It's so beautiful.
When you're building a program, you have to think outside of the box.
If you can change technology, you can change the world.
I challenge girls in every single country to learn 1 hour of code.
Every district should do, every district can do it, Please help us get the hour of code to every school and every classroom and every child.
And my school's doing it.
I can't wait to share with you guys at the next board meeting what our hour of code on December 12th. Please, if you have some time, we welcome anybody to come in and see what we are going to do. It will be from 8:30 to 11:30 because we're doing different assemblies and an hour of code in different classes throughout our campus. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Ms. Williams, we're very excited for the library media update.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Jill and Amy, so much for inviting me to talk to you guys about what is going on across both campuses in our libraries. So we can go right to the objectives. Thank you so much. So we have some very broad objectives, what we're doing in the library. So the idea is across our whole learning environment, we want to make sure that we are encouraging investigation. We want to have the library set up with access for everybody to become independent thinkers and to develop effective study habits that will carry on after they leave us, to make them good students and good citizens after they leave. We want to provide an opportunity for students to develop the skills and I think most importantly, the attitudes, which will encourage school library usage. We want them to be excited about the library, excited about what they can learn, excited about what they can use. We want to provide materials that support that curriculum, the student interest, and the staff. And I was going to talk a teeny bit about the staff needs because I want to, if a teacher comes to me and says, oh, we're going over gem studies this week, and we're talking about fossils, we're talking about rocks, I would love to be able to pull something off the shelf and send it with them. And then the big one this year that is brand new to the library is we're integrating technology in the curriculum. And I want to help model that. And also we want the students to enjoy and have access to a wide range of literature all across the spectrum. So what does that actually look like day to day? So for grades TK through 2, we're just teaching them how to use the library. So the California Model School that has library standards that goes right along with the California standards, the Common Core, and it aligns. And so the 3 things a good library will do will help students access information, help students evaluate information, and then help the students use the information. And for the little kids, that really just means that they can come in the library and with confidence, they can find the books they want, they can find the information they need. Not only that, but they will be able to determine if a book is the purpose is to inform or the purpose is to entertain. And then for the little guys, TK through 2nd, this year we've been working on taking a nonfiction book and formulating a question and using all the text features to look through that book and try to come up with the answer. So if they're looking for what do rabbits eat, where would you find that? Should we look in the glossary? Should we look in the table of contents? And then the students are confidently, I even had the TKs there today, and with the use of some pictures, we were answering these questions. So hopefully that develops to skills and the big kids. So now grades 3 through 8. The big thing that has changed this year, and Amy helped me get this, is access to the Britannica School online. So you guys remember the old-timey encyclopedias? I've been going through middle school classes, class to class, and trying to explain to them what encyclopedia is, and it is hilarious. And but so I wanted to explain where they come from, how the information gets there, and then after all of that, we will then use the Britannica online. Everybody 3 through 8 have been introduced to this, and it's such a good program, you guys. They can annotate from there. They can research from there. We're working on looking with key phrases and actually something that, oh, you wouldn't even believe that they don't know how to search for something articulately with articulation. And then, so not only that, but we're talking about evaluating the information. And these are the questions we always ask. Is it true? Is it biased? Whose eyes are we looking through? Is this information appropriate? And then is it really answering the questions that I have, or am I just going down a rabbit hole? And then, oh my goodness, I did a really long class with some 7th graders about primary and secondary sources. They're wrapping their minds around it. They're getting there. And then how to use that. And then, so then our library skills, we hope, will be lifelong. And then as far as fiction and literature goes, that is the next slide. We just want to make sure that they are exposed to all across the genres, all across every kind of person is represented, and that they can appreciate all kinds of fiction, whether it's traditional, mystery, science fiction. Some other things we've been working on in the library. This is something that started at the end of the year, and I continued it through the summer, and now we are integrating it and seeing it in real life, is our partnership with Orange County Libraries. So our students are applying for their own library cards. And then once we do that, we have online databases that are free, but our students can use them, like every mission book is online. So we don't have to purchase them. We don't have to put them in our library, but through making sure everybody has a library card, the 4th grade classes can sit down together and look up their own, the mission that they are studying. And then we do have some middle school and elementary librarians who are going to come to campus to help introduce book talks, and then to make sure that we know what our students can take advantage of at the library. And then our 4th graders on both campuses are taking part in Battle of the Books. These little cuties are so competitive. There are 20 books that have been curated by local librarians, and they read the books, and then it's a quiz bowl competition that will take place March 17th at St. Margaret's in San Juan Capistrano. And oh my goodness. Another thing that has done for us is we are able to partner with other librarians, because now we have a relationship with them, and I can see what other librarians at other schools are doing. And then we have a local author on the campuses, both campuses, coming up in February. So next, as we're all evolving in this new century, a big thing that's happening in libraries across the world is the Makerspace and Creativity Corner. We have one at both campuses, and they're just tiny little babies. But what they are, they're just a place where kids can come together to collaborate. They can make things, they can learn, they can share. And then why would we want to have this in a library? Because libraries have traditionally been quiet spaces, but the Makerspaces, first of all, aligns with our multiple intelligences, but it gives resources to all students. The students playing together, there is educational value. Makerspace projects can enrich the curriculum. So if I know what the 4th graders are doing, I can just put some stuff in the library and they can come in and tinker with it. If they're doing the gold rush, there could just be information there. They can tinker, they can build. And then, like was already mentioned, we are evolving. And then my last couple of slides. How do we make this a reality? Well, we need access eventually to the digital world in the library. That's where we are, and that's where we're going. We still use books. The students still know how to use them, to navigate through them. But the first thing I would like to do as we replace the old Chromebooks, I would just like to keep a set in the library so that when the students come together, they do have access. And then we would have like a communal place where even if every student doesn't have their Orange County library card, there would be one that you could use in the library. So if you needed to come read about the mission, if you needed to come research a science project, you would be able to do that in the Opah library. And then eventually it would be great if we could get tablets that I could just store on each campus. And then we could use that so that these online databases, which are necessary, will be able to be accessed. Then, to build our library, we have been using almost all scholastic dollars and donations. That's essentially, I've been here forever at this school, and then for a year at SOC before this school opened. And I think I have only used scholastic dollars donations, and that's it. I would love to eventually buy on purpose some good nonfiction books that actually support our curriculum. Because you can imagine if our parents are donating, they're donating stuff that they have left over. Eventually, that would be something that I would love to do. Go through and align with every single grade level and have those to the students can access them. And then our very last slide, I just want to make sure that our students know that the library is a safe space. Everybody should be comfortable there. I try to keep the library open as much as possible at the recess times. Students can come in, they can read, they can access those maker spaces we were talking about. And you know, as with the multiple intelligences, that is super important, I think, because not everybody is going to be playing two touch and kickball. There's going to be some people who need to come in, relax and refresh. And that is how they re-energize. And that's all. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next up is item 7, item scheduled for presentation. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes. First up is our financial update with Ms. Parikh with EdTech and Dr. Kernan, our CAO. Okay. Technical difficulties indeed.
Okay.
Ready? Should I use your computer? Okay, so these are our preliminary financials for the October financials. So in terms of our projected operating income for both sites, we are now projecting a positive operating income. The budget numbers are now reflecting what you approved as the new budget for the year at the last board meeting, where we were projecting a loss for both sites. At this point for SOC, we're projecting a $242,000 operating income, and SV, we're projecting $135,000 operating income, and we'll go over those adjustments on the next few slides. Overall, in terms of fund balance, both sites are looking very strong in terms of our balances, especially with a surplus this year. We're now seeing increased fund balances compared to budget. So both are right about 30% of expenses, and the minimum the state likes to see is at least 5%. So we're well above that threshold at both sites. So in terms of the forecast updates, so in terms of, let me bring that down a bit. Okay. So in terms of SOC, we were last projecting in the new budget a $141,000 loss. We're now up $382,000 with a current operating income of $242,000. The primary driver of this is the other revenue column of $414,000, which I will defer to Dr. Kernan on.
So we have received some money back. And that's going into SOC as well as SV into our fund balance.
We got some money back.
Through
Like the tooth fairy?
Yep.
Okay.
That's a big tooth.
Well, a lot of teeth could be dealing in volume.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, like the Costco model.
So that is the primary driver of why we're seeing a surplus of both of the sites. The rest of the adjustments are through our analysis of how the actuals have been trending, looking at specific trends in terms of where monthly amounts are going. So at SSD, we're seeing some savings both on equipment leases and utilities based on the monthly amounts that we've seen so far. There's also additional interest revenue coming in from your county treasury account of about $1,000, and so that's additional revenue coming in. We're anticipating in the new budget are in phone and internet at SOC. So we're paying for phone and internet, $1,000 additional expenses there. So this includes our consultants that we that have been forecast in terms of the monthly amounts that we budgeted for. So at this point, we've adjusted, assuming that they would continue working at the same rate that they've been working, about a 20 increase at SOC. The last item, so both of those positions, staffing positions, the hourly rates were lower on average than the actual hourly rates are that the staff are being paid at the aid level. And also the hours per week that they're working were lower than what they're actually working. So we noticed that the actual monthly amounts were higher than what they should be based on where this year to date. And so we have adjusted that based on that, you're actually paying and how many hours they're working. Same with the occupational therapist. The pay was higher than where we were anticipating being at this point, and the hours per week that were budgeted were significantly lower than where we had budgeted. And then on SV, we see a $231,000 increase compared to budget, and primary drivers are pretty similar in terms of the other revenue. The local revenue includes the interest revenue, but it also includes about $1,000 in reimbursements that we've received. So that's $3,000 in additional revenue. At SV, though, the utility trend is trending higher, and so we've increased it at this point by $6,000. And then the office and aides are the same trend we're seeing at both sites in terms of increased expenses there. And then in terms of our cash flow forecast, we did end October with about $1.2 million in the bank for SOC, and then about $2 million in the bank for SV. We are anticipating that both schools will have sufficient cash flows through the year, no anticipated need for lending, though we do that dip February, and that's the timing of expenses and when revenue trues up. So revenue trues up to your current ADA in March, and so we see that increase in March in terms of additional revenue coming in for your current enrollment. In terms of attendance, just to keep you in the loop, since that drives a lot of your, let me just zoom out a little bit, it drives a lot of your revenue forecast. So at SV, we budgeted a enrollment of 640 students at a 98% attendance rate. So you're funded at 627 ADA for the year. So the revenue is calculated based on the 640 98%. The first 2 months of the school year, you're exceeding that at SV. So we're seeing the ADA in month 1 was at 627.4, and then in month 2 is 629.1. So what this means is that there's potential for additional revenue if you continue at this trend. So we're seeing enrollment is higher than we projected at budget. So you can see the orange bar on the left for enrollment. In month 2, we were at 647 students. We budgeted 640. So we're seeing that enrollment is higher, which is helping us with increased ADA. At SOC, we're seeing this trend in a greater extreme in terms of we had budgeted 785 students at 97% attendance, but we're seeing that enrollment and attendance rate are exceeding that budget in both month 1 and month 2. So there right now we are seeing that at month 2 you had about 10 ADA higher than budget, and so that's really strong in terms of starting the year. On slide 8, I have, just so you have an idea of what that means for the budget. For SOC bar, here you stated that budget is down to the 785. 97% attendance rate, you would end the year just with the strong first 2 months of enrollment and attendance at 769 approximately ADA. That would mean about ADA more than budget, which is about $70,000 additional by the end of the year. So I 10,000 per ADA. So overall SOC, we could see some pretty significant increases in revenue by the end of the year if we continue at that trend. 2, attendance was higher. And so if you were to continue at where you were at the end of your second month of the school year, you could potentially get up to 773 ADA, which would be over $100,000 in additional revenue. SV, we see the story, but not as extreme in terms of the numbers. So about 3 ADA would be the max that we would be seeing there. And then just opportunities and risks. I think most of these we've reviewed through the presentation, but just a few items to highlight would be that we are monitoring the aid costs as potential risk that could continue to exceed the budget. At SV, we have the textbooks and facility repair costs are almost spent. And then SOC, we're monitoring the equipment leases as potential opportunity for additional savings. And then there are items on your balance sheet, like prior year revenues that have come in that exceeded what was accrued. And so we could see potential additional revenue if that isn't booked to last year's financials. And then that is that presentation. And then we have the check registers.
Your favorite.
My favorite. So I definitely wanted to address your questions from last time. So in terms of the check register. So a few things I want to walk through in terms of our process. So typically what we do is we look through the general ledger, which breaks things out by bill. So the check register lumps bills together because it's based on what the check was paid. So the adjustments that we made in the forecast previous presentation on looking at the general ledger and looking at that trend analysis. So for example, at SV, I was saying that the utilities look like they're trending higher. And where we flag that, you can see the SoCal Edison bills, one about $12,000. Check register, you can, if you find the SoCal Edison bills. And so you can see that big jump of 1,000 to 12,000. And so were to continue, we would see that exceeding budget. So that would be an example of something that kind of stuck out to us.
Well, let's use that as an example. So if you see that, what's the standard protocol for that, right? So I don't want to just say, hey, every time we see something jump, we change the budget. Instead, say that, hey, I'm seeing something anomalous. Why? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, so typically what we'll do is we'll
Somebody installed the Tesla supercharging station.
Yeah, so we try to communicate in advance of before the meeting for things where utilities are trending high or where we're seeing that trending high and give information to the school staff to see or is this like a one-time anomaly, like $1,000 bill and a one-time anomaly, or is that something that's going to continue the rest of the text based on actually at the school site? What information, just the forecast to say this is we need to, we're going to exceed this, or in terms of monitoring this, is there something that's going to adjust later? But
so since you brought it up and we're using that as an example, so you told who about that?
Of our communication.
Oh wow, you guys are BFFs. Speed dial.
They're
And then
financial.
overall trend. Just making sure that those are and figuring out what.
Because when the electric bill goes up 86%, Deloitte's going to ask about it. So why did it happen? Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Well, we know it did go up, so now we're seeing if that was just a 1 month anomaly or if that is kind of our averages, because it's getting darker earlier. Plus, we had a lot of all running like 8 hours a day. So making sure that that's not something that's going to kind of be the norm.
So, David, I'm going to share with you a consultancy who's one of his gigs is he looks at your electric bill and he helps you pick out time of use billing. You should be on this billing versus that billing or some other thing. Because it's surprising that you can make a choice about, hey, I want to be on this billing or that billing. Yeah. And it's terrifically confusing for somebody who's not a utility.
I think it's similar to, your own home bill, where you look at the trend over the summer or look at it over a period of time and you can get some data. And then there are those choices as to special programs that you can sign up for. So we need to look into that. So I'll welcome the name of that consultant. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else that stood out to you?
So we, as far as paying for our adoption that you guys approved last summer, we broke it up into 3 payments so that we didn't have to pay the entire lump sum all at once, because we don't get our payments from the state all at once. They kind of get spread out. And most of our payments come right in August, September for starting up the school. So David worked out a deal with Amplify where it was spread out over 3 different payments, October, November, and January. So that way it wasn't one lump sum. So because one payment was made at the beginning of the month and one payment was made at the end of the month, those are actually covering our October and November.
And with Amplify, as you recall, Amy negotiated better pricing for us in this adoption, doing a multi-year. So that was the strategy here.
Yeah, in the past, we did a lot of single-year adoptions where we're having to pay huge amounts of money every single year. Trying to go where we're doing a multi-year adoption, and then we don't have to spend any more money on that curriculum for 6 years, and then
Amy, I have a question. The increase in aides and OT, is that due to the needs of our students and the increase in special education students this year?
So special education is kind of one of those unpredictable things, really based on the enroll as well as the different services that are required through their IEPs. So each year it's tough to figure out exactly what our staffing needs are and what our needs are going to be for different services. So we try to base it off of kind of historical trends. This year we did get a much bigger percentage of our newly enrolling students who required a lot more services and a lot more aid support. So we did have to add some hours to some of our aides at the different sites, as well as adding some additional services. But we are looking at other funding sources and making sure that we are completely funded for as many of the services that are possible, so that we're receiving more revenue in from state and federal funding sources to offset some of those costs.
Thank you.
Did anything else stand out to you?
Any other?
Any other things on the check register, the GL?
So, I mean, I think in terms of the items that we highlighted in the charts above, so like Century Group professionals, that would be the office adjustment that we made. That was Century Group and office team. And when we looked at the budgeted weekly amounts versus the actual weekly amounts that were coming in on these checks, the amounts were higher, and that's why we made that adjustment. And so that was something that on the check register, it looks pretty consistent in terms of the amount is the same amount. So we made that adjustment, assuming that's the rate that they're at right now. And that would be continuing for the rest of the year.
And then one thing that is showing up on this register as what looks like kind of a large expense is our science camps. And so that's coming up as I think for Three Oaks 6th grade science camp is about $15,000. Those aren't our actual expenses because that's more of pass through. We get the money in from the students that are going. But when we pay out that money, it's showing up on the check register as sort of a large amount for field trips that we don't have, where we don't have a large amount budgeted. But that's because that's more of a pass through amount.
All right, any additional questions? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there was applause. Next up is 8 board reports and/or comments. We'll start at the far end of the table.
Actually, we have one more item.
Oh my
scheduled
gosh,
for
I'm so sorry.
presentation.
Proposed material revision. Dr. Kernan, you started like, okay.
So if you remember, back when we our charter to have a strong unified, part of it was to our admissions criteria or priority, and that went as a recommendation from the Capital Board as far as adding in the Barcelona community or the old Barcelona school boundaries as and in kind of shuffling those different priorities around and making sure that we were working with Capo on the MOU. We shifted the priorities around to make them look like, it's kind of hard to read, but the crossed out version where basically children of Opah staff that reside within the district get first priority. Second priority goes to siblings of students currently enrolled who live within Capo boundaries. Then it went to the former Barcelona boundaries, anybody that lives within the former Barcelona boundaries. Then all children residing within the district. Then children of Opah staff residing outside of the district boundaries, and siblings of students residing outside of the boundaries, and then all other applicants. Upon more reflection about how that would sort of play out, we would be severely impacting a small group of students who would normally have gotten priority With this priority list that was put in place through the MOU, all siblings of current students that reside outside of the district and children of staff members that reside outside of the district would have a very hard time making it in on the lottery list because anyone from within the district or within the Barcelona boundaries would have priority over them. And that would be a pretty big burden on our families that are already enrolled with older siblings and then trying to get their younger siblings in. So we are going to be just asking for a slight revision to place the siblings and staff students kind of a little bit higher in the priority list. So changing that to where staff and siblings within the district get first priority or first and second priority, then children of staff and siblings residing outside of the district get priority after that. And then it goes on to the Barcelona and then children within the district outside of the district. It doesn't really change. It doesn't change our overall enrollment. It doesn't change any of our budget figures. And it really only, in looking at it, the siblings would impact about 15 families based off of last year's numbers. And the staff would have affected one student. So it's not a large number of students, but it is students that are currently, families that are currently enrolled at the school, and we wouldn't want them going and driving students to two different schools. So, so we're hoping that Apple will approve this slight revision to just the priority list for those two things, because it really doesn't have a super big impact on any of our numbers.
All right.
How did this, didn't we just submit this?
We did submit this. It kind of in working with Capo, when we submitted it the first time, we didn't have, it was submitted like this, but it didn't have the Barcelona piece. Then when the MOU came back with Capo and they had submitted with what they wanted or would like us to use as those priorities, Barcelona went above the out of district siblings and staff member students, but also the in district went above the staff and siblings as well. And I think it until we really looked at what who that would impact, it didn't seem like it would really have a big impact until we really dug into numbers and noticed that it would severely impact about 15. But we need to kind of get, we were really looking to try to make sure that
I think also we had agreed that we did not want to submit the charter with material revisions. The reason there was a revision is because it came from the board. So thinking that if there are material revisions, they would be after the renewal occurred. So again, I think it's a small impact on other districts in our charter authorizer, but it's very impactful for the very few parents that are here, and we don't want to create a hardship. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Graham. Now we'll move to board comments and reports and start at the far end of the table. Ms. Travis,
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, and I have nothing to report. So that takes us to the executive director's report.
I want to thank our staff and administrators who've worked so hard to make this one of the smoothest years in the history of Opah. We have a blend of fresh eyes and keepers of the flame, I would say. We have great co-curricular activities that are new and some that we're keeping traditions. And we're seeing great cross-school collaboration and excellent PD opportunities. And I just want to commend the staff also. And for example, we have a staff member in the audience, Ms. Lopez. I'll embarrass her. The nutrition program works beautifully in terms of what she does and what she needs to calculate. In terms of lunches, and the back end is just huge in terms of the funding and the paperwork. We have a very dedicated and highly professional team at Opah, staff and administration, and I want to thank them for just the hard work that they do every day, keeping that level of professionalism. Charter schools are not easy places to work because there's so much we have to do, and we're just one or two sites. But again, it's been a very smooth first trimester, and that has everything to do with the people who work here, and also the solid guidance of the board, letting us do what we need to do and giving us the decisions to make our operational functions run smoothly. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right, next up, items scheduled for board action. First is A, approval of Young Mini and Core LLP invoice number 62587, totaling $56,649.13, and invoice number 62,094, totaling $24,962 for legal services. It is recommended the board approve action agenda item A. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Is there any discussion on this matter?
So, looking at the discount that we get for paying, right?
5%.
And they're good about, so if we do that now, we get 5% off that, right?
Well, yes, it's due at payment. We even made sure that the billing didn't match our board calendar very well. So we worked with YMC also to make sure that the billing is in time for the board to approve the payments, because oftentimes the payments are high. So we can get that 5% discount every time. It does us no good. What was happening previously is the invoicing hit us right after the board meeting. And then we sometimes could not get in that window of X amount of days.
I think every time we talk to them about it, they would allow us to take it and the invoice the day after the board. But in this case, all right, so we're only going to get the discount on what's that.
What you see, so what you see in front of you has been paid out, and it's according to the time frame in which we paid the bill. So we're not going to get something back. It's just that's.
I'm just saying it has a total amount too. I'm saying discount paid by this, but that discount is only on the current amount due. Where, to your point, if we go back and we ask them, hey, this other amount that we, quote unquote, missed our discount on was because we got the bill after the board meeting. So can you please extend that? They've been really good about that in the past.
I will have that communication.
Okay, because that's going to apply to a whole nother. There's really two buckets here that we're paying in this lump sum of. You'd say, Joseph,
$56,649.13.
Yeah. So that 56,000 doesn't include the discount on the other bucket. The bucket that we missed the discount on because it came in after.
Understood.
So it's, I mean, we're not talking about huge money here, but we're still talking about $1,500 or something. We're still talking about, 17% of our electrical bill.
It adds up. It adds up.
All right. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, motion is to approve payment of the two invoices. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. Next up is B, approval of proposed material revision to Opah SOC Charter Petition to 2019-2024. The current admission preference list would severely impact Opah current families and staff who live out of district, as it would prohibit most siblings and staff children from being admitted. The material revision to the SOC Charter School Petition is a minor change to the lottery admission and should have only a small impact on total in-district enrollment. It is recommended the board approve action agenda item B. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on this point?
Yes.
All right.
Have you had any conversation with anybody else about this? You see it coming?
We submitted a letter to Heidi, letting them know that we were most likely planning on submitting this material revision, and she was going to share it with their board and their staff so that they would know that it was coming and it wouldn't be a surprise.
And I may add the timing was to be able to have it on the capital board's agenda in December. So when we start our admissions process and start to ramp that up, this is in place.
And we
Hopefully.
actually spoke with Heidi about it in person a couple of weeks, about 3 weeks ago.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approving action agenda item B, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. Next up is C, approval of amendment to sick leave provision in 2019-2020 OPA Employee Handbook. The Employee Handbook has been amended to remove a sentence that was inadvertently included regarding sick leave for full-time employees. It's recommended the board approve action agenda item C. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All right. Do we have any presentation on what this one sentence is?
It was something really that was inadvertently included, and there's no material change.
It's in the board packet, is it not?
It's included in your board packet. So the sentence.
Superscript, page 25, actually,
Right.
66.
At the back. Mhm.
So it's nevertheless, all eligible employees shall be credited with 48 hours of PSL at the beginning of each year, with any remaining PSL to accrue throughout the remainder of the year. In actuality, we do not credit at the beginning of the year. We credit and accrue throughout the year.
Okay.
And for full-time employees, it's one day per working month. And the good thing is for those employees who work 12 months, 225, they would receive 12 days, but
Okay.
still only be able to use 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving action agenda item C, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Stay with me, people. Those opposed, this motion passes 3-0. Next up is D, approval of the 2020-2021 OPA school calendar. Oh boy, this is important. It is recommended the board approve action agenda item D.
So the 2020-2021 calendar is very similar to the calendar that was approved for this year, with a couple of adjustments based off of feedback from different stakeholders. So one of the things that I tried to do last year for the calendar was because we have families that are impacted by Capo school district's calendar as well as Saddleback school district's calendar, and they don't usually align, especially with spring break. We were going to kind of switching off 1 year coinciding with Capo's spring break, 1 year with Saddleback. This year they decided to align them. So yay. So spring break for our families will be April 5th through 9th, and that actually aligns with both Capo and Saddleback spring break. So if you have high school kids that are in either one of those districts, your whole family will now have spring break at the same time. One of the other minor changes that was made was instead of starting school on a Monday, school would start on a Wednesday, and then school would end on a Thursday. One adjustment.
That wouldn't be the Thursday immediately after the Wednesday, would it?
No,
Okay.
but that would be nice. Very small school year.
Yeah.
But one adjustment that is actually different than the one in the board packet that I would like to propose, and it doesn't actually affect the actual calendar, is just that in the one in your packet, Meet Your Professor, was on August 12th. Moving it to August 13th, the teachers are here the 4 days before school starts. So having that on the 12th would actually put it before the teachers come back, which would be a problem since meeting your professor before your professor's here would be sort of awkward. So so the only change,
Cardboard cutout.
we'll just kind of set up pictures of them. So the only difference would be moving Meet Your Professor, but that really doesn't affect the actual student days. One thing that we changed for this year was instead of having an entire week of half days for professional development, which really wasn't very conducive to cohesive professional development, is that we made a professional development day in the fall, the day after Halloween, which everyone seemed to enjoy. And then a professional development day in the spring. We're keeping that instead of going back to the 4 half days because that was something that staff really liked. So there will be that professional development day in the fall and the spring. It won't be the day after Halloween though, because Halloween is on a Saturday this year or next year. But other than that, everyone really sort of lobbied for the 3-week winter break. So that remains on the calendar for next year. And pretty much everything else is similar to the calendar for this year.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve a calendar that's all synced up nicely like that.
Yeah, as so amended.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on this point?
I would just like to make sure that when it's released in the middle, it talks about all the days of importance, but it doesn't actually list the spring break that you just mentioned. And so I think that that would be extremely helpful for families to see that that is actually spring break when it's going to be. And then my second note is that meeting the professors on the 13th is fine, but are you going to revise the schedule? Because I know that there was a lot of challenges last year with how Meet the Professor schedule went for that day.
Yeah, we've been, the chancellors and I have been working on coming up with a plan so that it's not so crowded and we kind of spread it out and possibly have different times so that it isn't quite such a
Get people in and out of the parking lot.
yeah, so it isn't quite so hectic.
Everybody meet your
on that
professor
day.
right now.
Right now,
Yeah.
5 minutes, get in, get out. So, working to try to make that a more efficient procedure.
Perfect.
Did we seek the input of the teachers on this?
Yes. So
Because that was
that's
something we heard a lot about last year.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And
And I
that-
figured since we moved the opening day to
That's-
not a Monday,
that's
that
what
reflected
moved
that.
the opening day.
Good. Just wanted to make sure. Perfect. Any additional questions, comments, concerns?
Isn't it crazy how good this group is over here?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Did you check? Yep.
Yep.
Got some buy-in? Yep.
Yep.
Did you think about? Yep.
Yep.
We
Lots
got
of
this,
yep.
Yep.
Yep. We don't even have to ask any questions. Just a
Any
yep.
questions? Nope.
Nope. All right. In light of that, all those in favor of approving action agenda item D, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This motion passes 3-0. Next item up is approval of job description for Opah accounting technician. It is recommended the board approve action agenda item E for an accounting technician. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion, debate?
Is this a budgeted position?
This is actually,
Let me down, David.
okay. One thing I would.
Just sang your song right here.
Yeah, okay.
I guess
Nobody
back
heard
to
it.
you, Nina.
Nobody heard it from me and you, but
This position is one that you heard about earlier. Office team. We've had a gentleman who's been working for really since the springtime. Okay, where we were ensuring that the position for purchasing and accounting, worked for the organization. So we vetted that. We also included it on the salary schedule for this year that you all already approved. So
Okay.
we planned for that a long time ago. And this will, change obviously the budgeting for the position. It'll be a regular position instead of a contract position is what we're expecting.
So, Mr. Barley, did you include, it would be a conversion from a contracted or temporary employee to an Opah position, so it is in the budget.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Mhm.
Yep.
oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Any further questions, comments, or oh yes from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving action agenda item E, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this motion passes unanimously. Finally, it is time to adjourn. It is recommended that the board adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, this motion passes. The meeting is adjourned at 8:33 p.m.
What am I gonna do with all my time now?
To the minutes.
Oh.